Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Do please like and subscribe. It's down there, folks. And come on, it really helps. Just give it a little click. That's it. Good. Thank you very much. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about the strange antics of certain prison staff. I mean, today we've got the hostess brigade that are 40% of all prison officers are female in the male jails. And I was discussing with one of my friends who is a senior officer in the Metropolitan Police, who was working for some time with the prison system, investigating misdemeanors from prison officers, and he was telling me that the governors, the actual governors of the prison, like Pentonville, Wormwood Scrubs, Wandsworth, and Belmarsh, they're all saying the same things. That the staff today, that they're getting today, because a lot of them came up through the ranks and worked their way up through the grades into the governor grades and became senior governors, and they're all saying the same thing, that they are not making the decisions as to the staff that are working in their prisons. They have very limited capability. They can't refuse to take female staff, and when they get staff and they're deployed as a member of staff, they have got certain duties to actually deploy them in all the offices. So that's how we've got the number of female staff. It's nothing to do with the actual governors. They don't do it. That's a Home Office Ministry of Justice policy that was brought in the, I think it was the late 1980s. And the idea seemed to have been that putting a female presence on the landings would actually calm down the aggression and the violence, which has had exactly the opposite effect. What this has done is to remove the ability of the uniformed staff to actually control the prisoners in their charge, because Strangeways and all the big Victorian jails were run on the idea that the prison staff were in control, and were in control by backing up their authority by force if they needed to. So in the event that trouble kicked off on the landings, then in came the boys and took them away down the block, meet the school bully, etc., and they wouldn't want to repeat that again. However, you can hardly send the tiller girls in when there's trouble going on the landings. All they're going to do is wave their handbags and shout, "Stop it!" It's ridiculous. And believe me, from what I've been told by my friend in the Met, that the governors are absolutely beside themselves. They don't quite know how to deal with this because the system has gone. And what they did in the late 80s, early 90s was to replace the long-serving officers with junior officers who were paid considerably less. And of course the junior officers now are not on the same pension scheme that pertained when I was a prison officer, which you got as your final pension 40/80ths of your pay. So you retired on virtually half pay, which was index linked indefinitely, and you drew that salary from when you retired, and you could retire then at the age of 55. So if you'd started in the prison service, I don't know, say at the age of 21, by the time you got to the age of 55, you've got the full pension and a little more, and you got a lump sum once you retired. That's all gone. And also the practice of medically retiring officers who are injured on duty That's gone. You no longer get placed on medical retirement. You just get required to leave the service. And what is this resulting in? It's resulting in junior staff who are running the prisons, who haven't got the first clue how to deal with angry men, and the gangs are taking over, just like the American prisons. The gangs are taking over, so we've got like ethnic minority groups forming themselves into little teams and basically running the landings. Back in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s and 80s, you would get the occasional tough guy who thought they could be the man in charge, and the boss. And one such was, of course, Paul Sykes. And Paul Sykes, the cure for Paul Sykes was an arseful of Largactyl. He was no longer the boss after that. In fact, he was a shambling wreck. But that's what he needed, and that's what he got. And he seemed to be quite content taking his daily doses. You get 3 doses a day, he did. But it started off with an injection of chlorpromazine in his backside, administered by yours truly, when he kicked off on E-Wing at Strangeways Prison. But we have got strange practices from officers. I mean, not just prison officers, police officers. There's a disciplinary hearing tomorrow of a police constable who's being charged with bringing the service into disrepute by actually snatching a emergency stop chain on a train and stopping the train so he could get off. He's up before his senior officers tomorrow with a view to being potentially dismissed from the police service. I mean, where do they recruit these people from? I don't know. But it's not just now. I mean, back in the 70s, there was a prison officer at Wormwood Scrubs who inadvertently, I assume it was inadvertently, left the prison with his keys in his pocket. And you would think, you'd get to... He was going home by train from Euston Station somewhere up north. And he realised that he got the keys in his pocket when he got to Euston Station. Now, anybody with any sense would say, I'm going back to the jail and handing my keys in. Not this guy. He went into the gents' toilets at Euston Station and lifted the lid off the WC and dropped the keys in there, where they were subsequently found. Of course, they'd got the number on that they were issued to, and it was issued to him. So he eventually got reprimanded, severely reprimanded for that. I don't know if he was dismissed, but I know he was severely reprimanded. Various crazy actions like that. So you're always going to get oddballs who find their way into the system some way or other. These days we've got numerous prison officers who are being compromised in the prisons by the inmates and blackmailed, cajoled or persuaded or even proposed to by the inmates. The females are especially vulnerable for this, as illustrated by the number of female prison officers who are getting themselves into the court system and being prosecuted for misconduct in a public office. And there's numerous of them. But it's not just down to that. I mean, down in the 70s when I was at Strangeways, we had one officer there who went into town pretending he went to one of the big nightclubs called the Millionaires Club. And it was there, he was standing at the bar drinking, and some gentleman said to him, what are you doing in here? I'm just having a chat with having a night out. I said, what do you do? And he told him that he was a detective from the Greater Manchester Police. Unfortunately, the man he was speaking to was a detective from the Greater Manchester Police and asked him to produce his warrant card, which of course he didn't have. So, but he was a Freemason, this guy, a member of the Masonic Lodge, so I don't think he got anything happened to him, other than he got all over the coals and required to report to the police station to explain himself. But that kind of madness, it was taking place. We had another officer who had a big motorbike, and he always wore a high visibility yellow jacket with goggles on and a helmet with a peak. And at lunchtime he was taking his motorbike out, and believe this or not, he was flagging down motorists on Bury New Road, which is just outside Strangeways Jail. If you drive down Bury New Road and look up to the right, you'll see Strangeways Jail. He was driving up and down there, waving motorists down. Eventually he got pulled by the police and asked him what the hell he thought he was doing. He said, I just thought I was helping because they were speeding. Yeah, how do you arrive at the conclusion that you're going to do that? So it isn't just nowadays that there have been strange people in the prisons. There's been strange people working in the prisons for a long time. Anyway, it's that time of day, folks. One day I'll find my real song dinger. In the meantime, you've got that. It clangs like the bloody bells of Notre Dame, does it not? I'm trying to read you a poem here, if I can get round to this. Just let me see if I can get round to it. Let's see. Come on now. There we are, yeah. This is a poem that used to be read in the music halls, the vaudeville halls. You've probably seen it on the good old days. It's the green eye of the little yellow god. Are you sitting comfortably? Larry's going to enjoy this because it's his age, isn't it? Yeah, isn't it, Larry? Yeah, get your belly and sit down and enjoy this. I'll read it in a rather northern accent, you know. Are you ready? There's a one-eyed yellow idol to the north of Kathmandu. There's a little marble cross below the town. There's a broken-hearted woman tends the grave of Mad Karoo, and the yellow god forever gazes down. He was known as Mad Karoo by the subs at Kathmandu. He was hotter than they felt inclined to tell. But for all his foolish pranks, he was worshipped in the ranks, and the colonel's daughter smiled on him as well. He had loved her all along, with a passion of the strong. The fact that she loved him was plain to all. She was nearly 21 and arrangements had begun to celebrate her birthday with a ball. He wrote to ask what present she would like from Mad Karoo. They met next day as he dismissed a squad. And jestingly she told him that nothing else would do but the green eye of the little yellow god. On the night before the dance, Mad Karoo seemed in a trance, and they chaffed him as they puffed at their cigars. But for once he failed to smile, and he sat alone a while, then went out into the night beneath the stars. He returned before the dawn with his shirt and tunic torn, and a gash across his temple dripping red. He was patched up right away, and he slept through all the day, and the colonel's daughter watched beside his bed. He woke at last and asked if they could send his tunic through. She brought it, and he thanked her with a nod. He bade her search the pocket, saying, "That's from Mad Karoo," and she found the green eye of the god. She upbraided poor Carew in the way that women do, though both her eyes were strangely hot and wet. But she wouldn't take the stone, and mad Carew was left alone with the jewel that he'd chanced his life to get. When the ball was at its height on that still and tropic night, she thought of him and hurried to his room. As she crossed the barrack square, she could hear the dreamy air of a waltz tune playing steadily through the gloom. His door was open wide, with silver moonlight shining through. The place was wet and slippery where she trod. An ugly knife lay buried in the heart of mad Carew. 'Twas the vengeance of the little yellow god. There's a one-eyed yellow idol to the north of Kathmandu. There's a little marble cross below the town. There's a broken-hearted woman tends the grave of mad Carew, and the yellow god forever gazes down. I sincerely hope you all liked that, though I somehow doubt it. Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton.